I might go rip up the bush.
Forced.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It's finally time. OWC is here with the round of 32. And what an excellent match we've got to start off this weekend. We have got France versus New Zealand. Should be an absolutely fantastic match to open up what is essentially a really stacked weekend. We have got some fantastic matches coming up for you this weekend, but we're starting off with this one. France versus New Zealand should be a fantastic match. Of course, joining me on for this cast is the ever so lovely, for his very first one, it's Mavs. How you doing, Mavs?
Yeah, how's it going? I'm doing good, Dimash. Thank you for that beautiful intro. I'm a little bit nervous. We're coming in for my first OWC cast, so I'm excited to be here, excited to cast this one for you all today and over the weekend with a few more matches. But yeah, it's a good one to start us off. France versus New Zealand, like you said. And I'm pretty pumped for this one. Being an Australian myself, a little bit more knowledgeable on this New Zealand roster than maybe some would be. So, kind of keen to get into this one, talk about some of the players and, some of those players on that New Zealand roster that have really stepped it up big time this year. And, the team's looking a lot stronger than they have these last couple of years. So this might be a closer match than maybe some would anticipate.
Yeah, I think definitely. I think there is the massive potential. I mean, there is the elephant in the room of the fact that they are going up against the the 8th seed in France on this one.
Yeah, the 8th seed.
So that we can't deny the facts that the New Zealand roster, they're going to be up against some tough competition today. But hopefully we're in for some big surprises. I suppose we probably want to start. I suppose we'll start with New Zealand. In fact, if you want to give us a bit of a background on this team and how they've managed to get through from the qualifiers, really.
Yeah, sure. So New Zealand, of course, they've been a team that have just barely been able to qualify the past couple years in OWC. Just I think last year seeding 33rd, which was an absolute heartbreak, and I think the year before it's coming a couple seeds off that, top 32 spot. So it's good to see them finally qualify this year, and I mean, I'm not particularly surprised by it, just because this New Zealand squad, like I said, they've really stepped things up this year. A few of their players in particular have shown up big time in some of the Australia-New Zealand tournaments that have been held this year. Players like Psyche and Zuma specifically, I want to talk about, where, Psyche coming second in ANZT this year. So really stepping things up, raised his skill cap, and they've got, other players on this roster like Zuma, who they just set ridiculous scores on any map. Zuma actually coming in at the 19th best player in the qualifiers round. So that's nothing to scoff at when you've got countries like USA, Germany, South Korea, etc. in this tournament. Top 19 is an insane performance. And I'd like to also note that they qualified, and they did all this, increase their seeding rank by 7 positions or 8 positions with only 6 players. They were missing 2 players in their qualifier lobbies and still managed to qualify at the 25th seed, which is pretty unbelievable.
Yeah, that's kind of crazy to consider the fact they didn't have their entire roster going in. To be able to actually pull that out is pretty spectacular, especially when you've got, because if I remember, it was Short Potato and Big Z that didn't play the qualifiers.
Yeah, it was.
That is massive, to say the least, because Short Potato is someone who really kind of just dips their bread and butter in everything, really. Will play pretty much anything that you throw at them. So to have such a member that's lacking in, to not have that consistency in your roster, is and still do as well as they did, is pretty impressive. I mean, one player down in qualifiers, not the end of the world, but 2 players down, that's something to discuss.
Yeah, especially such a player such as Short Potato, like you said. I'd argue this guy is their 2nd or 3rd best player on their roster, and he plays everything. There's nothing this guy can't play except for like super high BPM maps, like very high BPM speed. So yeah, that's a big hit for them to not have him in qualifiers. And Big Z as well, very, very competent stream player. I haven't seen too much of him in tournaments, especially over these past couple years, but some very good solo scores. He's about rank 400, so low 3-digit player, very good solo player. Excited to see him come into the tournament scene. I haven't seen too much of him in it. But Short Potato, very, very solid, well-rounded player. And I'd argue that if he were there during qualifiers, I think these guys would have, been in that next bracket, in that top 24. So, there's a lot to discuss with this team, and I think they're in the spot to take a couple points off of France. I don't think this is going to be a 5-0, which I feel like may have been a lot of the pick'ems. We're going to have to see, but France, of course, you can't underestimate this team, and that's why they're going into this one as the favorites, as the 8th seed. Ridiculous roster this year. Dimash, if you want to maybe run us through France a little bit.
Yeah, so France has just had a massive glow up this year. I don't quite know where it came from, because if you look at their roster between this year and last year, not massive changes. They've mainly kept the same lineup, apart from having a couple of players in, a couple of old players switch out, but more or less the same. The big ones, from what I remember, are players like Nero, the Poon stepping down as well. But they have had some excellent fills. Phil's the Llama coming back is just, it'll be such a glow up for France. If anybody remembers Phil's the Llama from the earlier days of OSU, especially around the sort of 2015, 2017 mark, knows just how good Phil's the Llama is, especially around the DT picks. But he's also been shown to be a very good no mod player as well. can pretty much play anything in no mod. Very dangerous on sort of, the alt and tech maps, especially in early stages. Very consistent player. Justman as well, can't hide away from that no mod 2 SS in qualifiers in their first run. And from what I remember in the second run as well, just absolutely ridiculous stuff from Justman on that no mod 2. So a very interesting addition to the team, as well as a very strong speed player as well. Just overall really good mechanical player. Should provide a lot of depth for this team. Flaster, if you're not familiar with this player, again, very strong DT player. France is really coming in with a strong DT roster this year. Just overall, the players that they're going to be putting on these maps, outside of the ones Musty and Okoro, their DT roster is super strong this year. But Flaster, again, is a very strong DT player. Tends to stick to more of the regional tournaments for France, mainly playing in their regional as well as official France tournament, which is of course their 1v1 session. Tends to sort of get around, losers round 6 in both years, but still very impressive, and is definitely in their way onto this roster. And same with the qualifiers, really. If you look at their qualifier scores, very strong on any DT map that Flaster was put in for. So, it's something that New Zealand have got to watch out for, or expect going into this, that they might not have the advantage on DT maps in particular, and maybe want to try and play around the fact that they don't have it. So definitely something to watch out for. But again, what do you do if you're New Zealand? Because playing anything else outside of sort of DT, you're going to go up against players like Musty and Okoro especially. Very dangerous players on anything that isn't sort of speed related. Can't really rely on gimmick. It's going to be tough for New Zealand to take some of these points, but I do believe they have the potential.
Yeah, and I think it's kind of sucks for New Zealand as well, because they came into these qualifiers with some pretty solid DT scores. I'd say on average, higher than a lot of their other scores. So it is kind of unfortunate that France is looking like such a strong DT roster this year. They don't have any sort of fourth player syndrome on these speedier maps. This DT3 and DT2, they didn't have a single player get under 500k, which is always a good sign, and no one really lacking heavily on the accuracy. So a bit scary for New Zealand. And overall at these qualifier statistics, the Hard Rock 1 is the only map that it seems like New Zealand has really outscored France on. So maybe that's something to look towards. A little bit of an unfortunate performance, I believe, on the Hard Rock 2 from New Zealand. Unable to even hit that 2 million mark, which I think was an underperformance from them. So I think Hard Rocks might be an angle for New Zealand this match, but we will have to see as we are getting into our roles. And captains now will be opting for those picks and or bans. Zuma opting for the second pick for New Zealand.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing. If you look at the qualifier statistics, they do not paint a very good picture for New Zealand. But again, you have to remember, they weren't coming in with the full roster on the qualifiers. They were down 2 players. So there is a bit of unknown, especially depending on how well France have done their research. I assume they've done it, so they will know about Short Potato and Big Z and what they're capable of. But again, it's how well do they perform on the big stage? Can they actually make a difference for their team? Or are we looking at those players that already played the qualifiers and that we know to rely on? That's going to be the big unknown, the big decider in this one, is how do those 2 players add to New Zealand's lineup? This is the full showing of what they're capable of in reality.
Yeah, for sure. And I think Short Potato is going to be a very nice addition to these Hard Rock picks as well. So, why I seem to think that they might try to pick into those, and it's just generally because I think New Zealand is a very strong hard rock roster. You've got players like Psyche, one of their best players, who is extremely good at hard rock. Zuma, who can play anything. Short Potato is a really good hard rock player. So, you know, pretty damn solid hard rock roster. And on a round of 32 pool, you know, there are the lower seeded teams that can absolutely pull out 2 ways, 3 ways on these maps just because it is round of 32. Mind you, this pool isn't extremely easy, but yeah, it's going to be our first pick anyway. Moving in, France going to be picking Free Mod 3 straight up. Now, Free Mod 3 into the unknown. So this map is our AR8 free mod slot for the week. So you know, there's no modern hidden players going to have to cop that AR8, which is a smart pick for France because of that hidden 2 ban, obviously. And it's going to be 6.5 with the hard rock. This is pretty gimmicky, low BPM cut streams for the most part, but some, you know, very low BPM sort of spaced jumps that can be easy to miss on, especially on that low AR on the hidden. So we'll have to see the lineups here. I don't doubt New Zealand. New Zealand should have a player or 2 that should be comfortable on this low approach rate, but good pick for France, I would say, trying to get straight into that low approach rate just because of how good they did on that hidden 2 in qualifiers. They did so well on the hidden 2. Had one of the top scores, I believe, in the whole tournament.
And just a bit of information on free mod for those of you that are a little bit new to tournaments. Just to explain how free mod works. Free mod is essentially where players are allowed to choose a specific set of mods, which is limited to hidden, hard rock, or hidden and hard rock together. When playing a free mod beat map, we must have at least 1 player with hidden, 1 player with hard rock or hidden and hard rock. And for the remaining players on each team, the mods are completely optional from then on. But we must have at least 1 player with only hidden, and 1 player must take hard rock. That is essentially what free mod boils down to. So it'll be interesting to see which players are taking the hidden only on their teams. And like you mentioned, that AR8 is a pretty decisive thing for France. It on paper appears to be a good, solid pick, especially how dominant they were on the hidden 2 in qualifiers.
It looks like we're going to be getting into our first map of OWC 2022. Here we go. It's going to be Thunder on the hidden for France. Justman on that hard rock. Blaster and Okoro taking the no mod. Side of New Zealand. It's going to be Zuma on the hidden only, Psyche with the hard rock, and Pig Say Moo and Yoon, my beloved, on the no mod. Here we go, Dimash, first map of OWC 2022.
Yeah, very interesting start. No overmodding, which is interesting. You see a lot of the higher seeded teams, in particular, try and overmod on these sort of maps to kind of try and put pressure on the lower seeded teams. But we see couple of trade-ups actually. We see Thunder dropping as well as Zuma early on, so both hidden players not off to the best of starts on this map. Thunder had that second break as well, so they are training slightly behind. Justman's going to go as well on the hard rock. You and my beloved and Zuma are going to be finding resets as well, so we've still got 2 full combos, one of them being the hard rock for New Zealand, but again, Pixemu is really struggling on the ACK on this map.
Yeah, trades going back and forth, and yeah, it's impressive that Pixemu was even able to hold on to this full combo with the accuracy, but there's going to be 2 full combos to 2 nonetheless. Oh, but make that... Oh no, that was not a full combo. Still 2 full combos to 2 here. But it is such a huge score lead for France, just partially because of that accuracy from Pixemu is not doing him any favors whatsoever. But just overall, these supporting combos and supporting scores from France are looking a lot stronger. And we're already about 3/4 through the map here. Zuma, yeah, finding another drop.
Yeah, the break from Zuma there. Zuma's got the highest accuracy on New Zealand at the moment. Everyone else is kind of struggling around the 93 or below mark for them. Whereas you just see France, they're so much more comfortable on this 97, 96, 98, 99. They got one of everything here. And that is the making the biggest difference here. Thunder will drop that recovery combo that he was building up, but it really doesn't matter at this stage. There's just too much from France for New Zealand to do anything. Very solid first pick for France, as we expected.
Yeah, very well played by them. Some huge scores on their side. No one really dropping below that 600k mark, ever so slightly at least. New Zealand showing a little bit of their lower AR weakness, I think there. Zuma with, I'd say, an unfortunate score from him, uncharacteristic. As you can see from his accuracy, he definitely was comfortable on that map, but just unable to string much of a combo together. 299 max combo, so... But yeah, Pixamu getting a huge combo there, but you can kind of see the discomfort with that 86% B rank. So France doing their research and picking very well. Winning that one convincingly by about 700k or so.
But we did have 2 FCs on either team, both New Zealand and France, pulling in FCs for that one. So, you know, it does show that they do have the potential. But they, obviously, it was never going to be a tough... It was never going to be an easy victory on a map like that. It's very, very similar to Hidden 2. In terms of the AR8 elements and the aim focus, so it was always going to be a tough ask against France, who just looked so much more comfortable on the AR8 in general.
Not a bad showing though from New Zealand, all things aside. Wasn't too bad, like you said, 2 FCs on the board, so curious to see where they're going to go after that first pick from France. And it's actually going to be the free mod 2. We're staying right in the free mod pool early on in this match, and if you're noticing something different about this pool, something a little off, it's that, hey, there's no mod 5. What's going on there? Why is there no mod speed map? And well, that's because our speed map is actually going to be in the free mod slot. So what usually would be a no mod 5 is pretty much being thrown into this free mod 2 slot now. So players who are comfortable on this kind of speed now have the option to take mods at their comfort. So we're going to have to wait and see, but this does of course add another element of players having to take these mods on these speed maps. So a little different from having that speed map in the no mod 5 slot, but a welcomed change, I would say, to most. And yeah, this map's about what you'd expect out of a no mod 5 or a free mod 2 now, which is a lot of bursts, a lot of 5-note bursts, and 232 BPM speed and stamina. For the most part, consistent bursts throughout the whole map. It just doesn't let up. And for some reason, it's 7.12 stars. And I don't know why, Dimash, because it does not feel like a 7-star map when you play it, but here we are.
Yeah, I don't know. The star rating's kind of having a bit of a weird day on that one. I assume it's due to the fact that the CS is very low on this map, and yet the BPM is ridiculously high. That tends to mess with star rating a little bit. But it is an interesting note that anyone with Hard Rock should feel really comfortable on this. With only an OD8 on a map like this, and a CS of 3 standard before adding Hard Rock, that's going to feel right at home as a standard, speed map for... It's actually going to feel more comfortable at AR 10 than it would, I think, on 9.1 at CS3. So I wouldn't be surprised if players overmod just to put Hard Rock on, just to actually feel like a normal map, over having a CS3. So it might be a bit interesting to see the hidden players on this one, as they do have to contend with that CS3. That it really does throw players off sometimes. The bigger circle sizes on a map like this makes very dense circle overlaps.
Yeah, that is something definitely worth mentioning. The hidden only on this map might be a little bit of a struggle. And yeah, as you mentioned, we are going to be seeing double Hard Rock from France on Phil's Dilemma and Hifkill. Flaster on that hidden only, Akari with the no mod. And on New Zealand, we're actually seeing a triple Hard Rock. Zuma, Pixamu, and Psyche all taking out Hard Rock. Zuma with the hidden to boot. And Yun, my beloved, on that hidden only. So yeah, big overmods on this free mod too, and for reasons I think you've already mentioned, Dimash, that CS, and the approach rate. I think Hard Rock is probably just very comfortable on this type of map.
Yeah, Yeah, and that's the way we're looking at things. So early breaks coming in from a lot of players. Yeah, Phil's the Llama, Akora, and Flaster all finding breaks for France, but New Zealand holding strong with a couple. You and My Beloved did have an early break and now follows up the second one, and Pixie Moo has had a break as well. But still, the score remains quite close to start this out.
Yeah, and this is just over 3 minutes of practically this. So, hope you're feeling consistent because, yeah, it's pretty easy to trip up on any one of these bursts, especially with that hidden, man. Like, got to give it to these hidden players. They are struggling a bit, but, you know, it makes sense as to why. Still got 2 FCs on the side of New Zealand, and France actually with no full combos on the board, so lead is going to go over to New Zealand, albeit pretty early in the map still. We're only about a third of the way through. A strong supporting combo from You, My Beloved, as Pixie Moo drops the other supporting combo.
Yeah, New Zealand in a strong position. Zuma and Psyche really going to be able to hold down the fort. There goes Psyche, though. Not going to be having a second FC in this match. But that is a big jump as the supporting combos start to do their work for France. They're all holding big combo at the moment. You and My Beloved drops that supporting combo for New Zealand. It's just Zuma out on their own. They're gonna need to see some breaks from France in this last third of this map. If they have any chance. They've still got a chance. That's the main thing. Zuma is still holding big combo. But it's gonna come down to these breaks.
I don't think I've ever seen a score lead evaporate that quickly. For what was looking so strong for New Zealand, it's just completely gone. And look how fast that score lead is flying towards France. Just because they're all holding insane combos now. None of them are on FCs, but it doesn't matter when you've got over, you've got over 3,000 combo worth on your team. And New Zealand has only got about 1,500. So what are you really going to do? The chance for New Zealand is just slipping away quicker and quicker now as no one on France wants to break. They refuse to. Zuma holding onto the FC, but it's just not even close to enough.
Yeah, it's the team versus the player. Unfortunately, those breaks, they were so early on for France that they were just able to really rally again and recover as if nothing had happened. It was just bad timing for New Zealand when those breaks came in, especially for Psyche, was really holding on with the combo, but once it dropped, it just couldn't be recovered.
Oh my god, Akoro's accuracy.
Yeah, we need to talk about that, Akoro. That's not okay. But I mean, it's Akoro. It's Akoro. What do you expect?
2 100s and 150. And I can't believe a map that was so tight ended up being about a 1 million score difference there in the end. Crazy scores from France, and unfortunate for New Zealand. It seemed like players definitely weren't feeling as comfortable on that as France is. At a very low score from Pixie Moo. Unfortunately, a little bit of fourth player syndrome on that one, but regardless, it wouldn't have mattered, even if there was an FC in his slot. So, France looking crazy, and that act from Akoro, man. What do you even say to that? That's insane.
Yeah, and I think that's the scary part. I mean, it all comes down to France as a sort of speed team this year. Their speed roster is solid this year, and I think we'll see more of that here as they pick TT3. Yeah. Quick pivot into the DT after picking very gimmicky low BPM. We've gone from one side of the map pool to the other. Off the back of that free mod 2 win, I would say. That convincing free mod 2 win. I think France kind of just saw there that New Zealand didn't seem to have a strong 4 for speed. And they've just gone, yep, let's immediately go into this DT3, which it's going to be 240 BPM, stamina, and speed, if you can consider 240 BPM speed. I think some players would maybe laugh at that, but, for snail like myself, definitely pretty speedy and quite stamina intensive with how long some of these streams are. Kind of a bit of a hybrid from the usual DT2s and DT3s we see, that speed and stamina slot. This is kind of the slot that's kind of been joined into one. It's a bit of both on this map.
It's pretty standard as far as things go, though. Just some longer streams and bursts all throughout. Decently similar to the free mod 2, but a bit speedier and a bit more stamina intensive.
Yeah, so again, I'm looking to see those speed rosters come in for both teams. You know, I'm looking at Okoro, I'm looking at, you know, Phil's Dalama especially pop off on this one. Faroum CVVT had great scores on DT, so big expectations there for him. But we'll have to see how New Zealand respond. They've got Zuma, they've got Saikyu, who have been performing well so far. It's going to be a big ask against this France lineup.
Yeah, this French lineup is ridiculous to just even look at. But this is going to be the first break from Phil Salama. Seems he heard me and just decided to tell me I'm wrong. I don't know. Phil Salama with the only break in the lobby so far. Actually, Pixemu going to be trading that one back shortly after. So 6 FCs still on the board, 3 each way as we get into this first KI. Blaster gonna drop for France as well. Now 2 FCs to 3. New Zealand though still got a bit of score to make up, mainly from that accuracy difference. We can see some struggles on the side of New Zealand, but holding onto that combo, Phil Salama finds another break now.
And these are quite significant breaks actually from France. They need to kind of just hold on to the accuracy now, and not try and force the combo too much, because it's the only thing that's keeping them in the lead at the moment. But it is starting to go the other way. Another break from Phil Dalama here. This is unprecedented, as we still have 3 FCs from New Zealand, and they flip it halfway through the map. They've still got a ways to go, but they're in a stronger position now than they were at the start. But they need these combos desperately. The AC will not help them through. Yoon, my beloved, finally finds a drop, and he was a big accuracy lead for New Zealand, so it might start to pull the other way. Saikyu going to be finding a break as well. I think this might be a repeat of earlier.
What happened? New Zealand just collapsed. You, my beloved, and Saikyu both missed on nothing. They had FCs, and You, my beloved, missed on the last jump of that previous section. Saikyu missing on a slow slider, I think. And it's just fallen to pieces for New Zealand. It was looking so good for them. Zuma gonna bring it home, but so is the rest of Team France. Oh, that's heartbreaking for New Zealand. My soul would shatter watching the VOD back at that one. That is really unfortunate for them, and they still got some solid scores there, man, but you can't give an inch to France. This team is crazy good.
Yeah, but they didn't have the performance that I think people would expect. Don't get me wrong, amazing scores, but it was very dicey. They were relying on New Zealand falling apart. And to be honest, I'm amazed that it actually happened, because I thought that, you know, New Zealand were going to take that one. They had solid players, but Yoon, my beloved, kind of started the domino effect for New Zealand there. Which was a shame, because that had amazing accuracy. I think it was like 98-99% accuracy on that one. So,
yeah,
you know, to drop that it is tragic. It is tragic to see.
Yeah, you know, my beloved, the DT specialist for New Zealand, very, very comfortable in those types of maps, but just unfortunate misses from you know, my beloved, and followed by Saikyu. It's going to tip the scales over to France, and of course Okoro again with just like a 1/100 score, and I don't know why he's doing this back to back. And he got 150 again as well. For some reason, he's just thrown in that 150 on both plays. I don't know how or why. I wonder if it's on purpose. But crazy act from him, man. I don't get it.
Yeah, currently right now, 99.7% is Okoro's lowest accuracy. So Okoro is in a good place today. And something else to point out as well is Okoro didn't actually FC that map, and yet he still got the highest score in the lobby because of his accuracy.
Wow. I didn't even notice that. That is, yeah, that's crazy. Oh man, we're loving this free mod pool today though. New Zealand. Back into the free mods. It's free mod 1. No one wants anything to do with these Hard Rocks, Hiddens, or no mods, I guess. So we are going to be moving into free mod 1 and, well, I guess they're pivoting here. They're going into a bit of aim. You know, consider this one a little bit of reading as well, especially for those hidden players. But yeah, just in general, a bit of awkward aim consistency all throughout this map. Some squares, some overlaps. I think hidden players, like I mentioned, we might see some struggles there, maybe a few misreads if you're not really focused on a couple sections in this map. I think Hard Rock probably going to make this one a bit tougher to aim, but not as difficult on the reading side of things, of course, because you're going to be moving up to that AR-10, so... Interesting pick from New Zealand, but I think warranted. They're going to pivot into a bit of aim and change things up a bit, as obviously their strategy of picking that speed map did not work out at all.
Yeah, I think New Zealand would be much more solid, you know, team comp-wise on the mechanically intensive maps. I think they've got a much better chance fighting France on that front, rather than trying to fight them on the... you know, on speed in general. I think speed for France is it's always gonna be a tough ask to battle any sort of DT, especially with that performance. Which, you know, you saw France dropped 2 full combos, and yet they still absolutely rolled New Zealand by the end. And again, knowing that France has got a player like Okoro on their team, who you just expect a really high score from, puts a bit of pressure on you. Especially with this being potentially New Zealand's last pick. If they're not able to win this one, they won't get another shot at another map pick. And that could be, you know, that can add a bit of pressure to your team.
Getting into this free mod 1, we're actually seeing overmod from both sides. Justman and Vroom taking that Hard Rock for France. Thunder on the hidden only, Okoro with the no mod. It's going to be Yoon, My Beloved, and Psyche with the Hard Rock for New Zealand. Rumi with the no mod, and Zuma with the hidden only. So overmods on both sides, but we do have no mod advantage for either teams as we move into this map. No one with any early trip-ups.
Yeah, first appearance for Rumi actually in this matchup, as Psyche again will have an early break, but it is on the Hard Rocks, that's okay, and a double break from France is going to help them out and make up that difference. So New Zealand looking to catch up here as they hold strong, but it's been the same story for New Zealand so far. They always start off strong, but it's whether they can hold it till the end. Only time will tell on that front, but still 2 full combos for France. Justman and Okoro, the ones you want. Never mind. There goes Justman. Never mind.
Yes, I mean, the question of this one is, you know, we've seen this twice before already. I'm getting a bit of deja vu here, but can New Zealand close this time? That is the important question. Are they closers? We're going to have to find out, as Okoro holds the sole left seat for France. The 3-way from New Zealand, and a big supporting combo from Psyche, above all the combos on France besides Okoro.
I'm glad you brought up Okoro, because I was not going to touch that. After making Justman break, I'm not interested in any more today. But yeah, New Zealand off on a solid run on this map. There goes Zuma. That's big, though. That's big. I feel like that was my fault, but it's okay. It's okay. There goes Rumi. No. Oh, no. You know what? Take it away. Take it away.
I think... Please don't do it again, New Zealand. We're 2/3 through. The score is now going over to France. Oh, no. It is crucial, Psyche. And Yoon, My Beloved, hold on to these combos. Justman misses. That's a start for New Zealand, as things now start to equalize a little bit. But the combo advantage is in favor of France, and the hack lead as well. So this is going to slowly go over to them, but if these combos, if Psyche and Yoon can hold on to these combos, I think it'll be enough to pull them over the line here.
Yeah,
it's about 180k.
Zuma's starting to build up that supporting combo as well, which is going to help them out and help maintain. As long as they don't have any major drops that France doesn't match, they should be okay. There's very little of this map left. I think New Zealand are going to hold on to this. And they're going to get on the board.
I think they've done it. They finally closed. A huge miss from Yoon, but it doesn't matter. It's too late for France. They finally closed. New Zealand, they get a point on the board against the 8th seed in the tournament. Great scores from them. 3 million, man. Good stuff. Finally, they're going to feel good about that one, getting on the board after a couple choke points. Very, very good stuff from New Zealand. I'm sure they'll be happy to even get a point in this match. You're coming up against a team like France. It's definitely something to be proud of, I think. Akoro again with inhuman accuracy, but Zuma as well. The single-digit 100s. So that was on the hidden too. So crazy accuracy from Zuma as well.
Yeah, crazy good stuff on that one. Just sort of looking at that. You and My Beloved coming in with the only 1 million score on that map was just crazy. It was nice to see after what has really been a bit of a struggle in certain areas for you not being able, always having good accuracy, but not quite being able to pull in the full combo. Finally kind of brings that in and is able to really just hold off Akoro for the longest time because of the hard rock. So, really good stuff from there. Very unfortunate break though for Thunder. You kind of had a break almost like halfway through and then just did not recover on that. But hard rock won here. We've got a very a bit of a unique hard rock than I think most people will be used to. If you watch tournaments, you can typically consider Hard Rock 1 to be a sort of aim focused map with Hard Rock, but it's a bit different this time. We have a much more streamy tech pick for Hard Rock 1. It's more about testing a variety of skill sets within this Hard Rock. It's very what's the word I'm looking for? Unconventional, that's the word. I knew I added in there. So it's a bit different than what you'd expect, and that's exciting for me because it means that the statistics that we've been running on mean absolutely nothing, and we could see some very interesting results because of this. So getting into this one, you and My Beloved though will have the first reset very early on though, so that's okay. The Zuma and Mealbus will also find resets.
Yeah, actually going to be seeing a Mealbus come in for its first map of the match, I believe. But France off to a strong start, 4-way FC. Only 1 FC for New Zealand, but Yoon and Zuma not too far behind, and we are still very early on into this extremely techy Hard Rock 1. We weren't kidding much. This is definitely unconventional. But I think it's warranted, considering how generic the Hard Rock 2 is this week. There's going to be Just Man finding a miss for France, alongside Musty a little bit earlier there. So, combo advantage now in favor of New Zealand, ever so slightly.
But it's accuracy again. It's the one thing that's holding them back, and this Hard Rock is brutal on the accuracy. Those Hif Kill and Yoon My Beloved. But that benefits New Zealand more, as Yoon was not on a full combo. These supporting combos starting to come up for New Zealand, start to be major players. They could hold on to it into this second half.
Oh, Zuma!
That's big, though. Big reset for New Zealand. Musty will go, though, for France, so they're only relying on the big combo from Vroom. But there goes Psyche, which is a massive reset for New Zealand in the last quarter of this map. And I don't think they have the combo to battle this against France.
Yeah, that break from Psyche, I think, is going to seal it for France. And it's unfortunate for them because New Zealand was actually taking the lead at one point there. It was going over to them, but miss from Zuma, miss from Psyche, it was just all too much, and then they've now 4-way reset no one above 200 combo in New Zealand, and that score lead is flying over to France as Vroom. No! No, Vroom! No! He dropped CFC on the last slider.
Oh dear.
Oh no, why have you done this? I swear we're getting so many near FCs this match, but people just getting weird slider breaks or one misses right at the start or at the end.
Yeah, it does appear to be that sort of match, but it could come down to nerves, but I think it's just one of those matches, isn't it? That doesn't quite add up. But yeah, still very solid play from Vroom. Definitely the MVP on that one. Really brought home that high combo that otherwise France didn't really have much else. You know, New Zealand, they did have big drops at the end, but without Vroom, I think that could have quite easily gone over to New Zealand.
Yeah, not a bad showing from New Zealand on that Hard Rock 1, and I mean, yeah, we talked about how they are a pretty confident Hard Rock team, but unfortunately, when you're going up against the 8th seed, it can be tough to really take any point from them. So I'm sure they're feeling pretty good about the one they've already gotten, and they've got a chance now to take a second. Pick is to New Zealand, and I'm curious what they're going to opt for here. I think, you know, is it worth swinging into something that we maybe haven't tried? Maybe going into these no mods might be an option. This no mod 2 is potentially an option for New Zealand. They are a pretty solid stamina stream team. It's an option, but
I think that if New Zealand are looking anywhere, I'd look at Outer Science Hard Rock 2. It's a precision focused map, but a lot of the focus is on the aim itself within that map. So definitely more mechanically demanding potential. But other than that, I can only recommend potentially no mod 3, but that's going to be tough against the France lineup. I think France will have a very solid ult team. And considering it's not, you know, there's no unconventional sort of stuff, it's very, very comfortable no mod 3. It's going to be tough for them to, I think, win that, especially when you factor in players like a Koro who could probably SS no mod 3.
Oh, it's actually hidden 1, which is fairly surprising. I was going to agree with you and say that Hard Rock 2 is probably looking like a decent option. Just get into that Hard Rock aim. The Hard Rock aim was the only map that New Zealand outscored France on in the qualifiers, so, you know, it was looking like a decent option, and the no mod 2 as well maybe could have been something they picked up, like I mentioned, just because I think this New Zealand roster is pretty strong on streams, but it's going to be hidden 1, which I think is unexpected. France are very strong on hidden, and this map isn't as generic as they get for hidden ones. There's a couple patterns in here that can trip you up. A couple streams as well, which if you're not super comfortable on hidden and you're holding a big combo, you can easily fall off due to nerves.
Yeah, I definitely think, though, that this isn't necessarily an awful pick for New Zealand. I think they've got very much... they've got a decent chance. If you look at the second run from France and the first run from qualifiers from New Zealand, they're actually very similar on the hidden 1. And I think with this being, you know, an aim-focused pick as well, you know, it's still relying on that aim, and I think that is New Zealand's best chance. But again, there are some the middle section of this map in particular is very tricky to hit consistently. So I think I'm expecting to see big drops, but as for which side it'll be on, I don't know at this stage.
Well, but praying, if you're a New Zealand fan, that they're able to take another point at least in this matchup. It is going to be a tall task on the hidden 1. Oh, and I was gonna see who was gonna be claimed. Who was claimed the victim to the first hidden stream, and it was Emil Bus, the only one in the lobby, who just chain misses the entire thing. But Blaster trades back a miss of his own. 3 FCs to 3 now. Emil Bus follows it up with another break, but everyone else looking pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, so far things looking good outside of Emilbus, but again, it's the accuracy is just massively in favor of France here. Unfortunately, on this one, they are storming ahead. As we see another break from France, there's not really a lot New Zealand can do, and Rumi going to be finding a break now for New Zealand. That is going to sting. Third of the way through the map, that's a big break. And again, as we get into this next section, it's going to be even tougher to hold on to those combos, as I think this is probably the most tricky part of the map coming up right now.
Yeah.
Just claiming everyone here on the side of New Zealand.
It's so easy to slide a break on some of these. And it's going to be claiming a few players, like you mentioned. Bakora is going to fall, Emilbus, Yun My Beloved as well, Zuma. Lusty as well, breaks on a little bit of aim afterwards. But combos, we've really only got Thunder and Flaster for France. And they're just going to run away with this one as we're about 2/3 through the map. There's not really any combo on New Zealand. Rumi pretty much got the only notable combo on their side with a pretty good accuracy, 98%. But, I mean, you can't really combat these combos from France right now. And that score lead is just already 600k.
Yeah, it was already looking bleak going into that tricky section, but coming out the other side, you can just see that Thunder is just going to run away with this in the last quarter, as this score will rocket up towards the top. Flaster as well should bring in some decent score, and there's just nothing, unfortunately, that New Zealand can do. But watch as this match storms towards its end.
Oh, everyone in the lobby hit that.
Yeah, that's impressive.
That's the hardest pattern in the map. How did everyone in the lobby hit it? There's no way.
Gotta finish strong. But unfortunately, New Zealand not strong enough to stay in this match, as France are the dominant force in this one. They will take the victory in fairly dominant fashion, but New Zealand, they did manage to get that point. So credit to them where it is due. They had a very good match here, very good try. But again, it's the 8th seed in the tournament. There's not a lot you can do.
Yeah, New Zealand putting up some good team scores, I think, throughout this match, and they took the 1 point, like you said, and were very close to taking another 2 points, potentially even 3, where they were in a position where they could have taken things over, or they were in the lead, and just unfortunately got some really unlucky breaks in really unfortunate moments and unfortunate spots. But it is going to be what it is, and New Zealand taking 1 point against France. France proceeding on through the winner bracket into the round of 16. Congratulations to your winners. And yeah, New Zealand going to be dropping on down to the loser bracket. Best of luck to them, and best of luck to France moving forward in the tournament.
Yeah, I think France, they might not be too pleased with that performance. I think there's a couple of areas they were probably a little bit sloppy with their performances. Still, obviously, incredible scores, but definitely feel like they were expecting to come into this a bit more FCs, a bit more consistency. But, you know, it's progress. They got the win at the end of the day, and that's the main thing. That's what matters. And they can always do better next week. So as for the schedule now, we do have a couple of hours of a break. So of course we'll be dropping the stream here, but we will be back at 13 UTC to bring you a lovely match. It'll be Indonesia versus Finland. And then we have a bit of a block, really. We have Indonesia and Finland, followed straight by Japan and Singapore. So some excellent matches coming up there. And I look forward to seeing the results of those. Some interesting players within both of those matches to watch out for. But again, thank you, Musty, for joining me. It was a pleasure.
Musty? Wait.
No, you're Mavs. Oh my god. I'm still in
He's
match
on the
mode.
French roster.
He's on the French roster. God. Oh, it's too early. I'm going back to bed. But yes, thank you all so much for joining us. And we will see you very, very soon at 13 UTC. But until then, bye for now.
Bye-bye.